When performing electrical calculations for multifamily dwellings using the optional method, it is common to encounter situations where the resulting service load is lower compared to calculations using the standard Part 3 method. This often occurs because the optional method allows for certain demand factors that can reduce the overall calculated load. However, National Electrical Code Section 220.84c3 specifies that the nameplate rating of electric ranges must be used when applying the optional method. This requirement can present a challenge when the actual nameplate ratings of the ranges are not readily available. If you do not have access to the nameplate ratings of the electric ranges in a multifamily dwelling, it is generally acceptable to use a substitute value. The substitute value should be a reasonable estimate of the typical power consumption of electric ranges. Based on the information provided, typical ranges are often rated around 10.5 to 11.8 kilowatts. In this case, you are in the pre-bid process for upgrading the electrical services of 2 apartment buildings. You need to determine a suitable substitute value to use in your calculations for electric ranges. It would be safe to use 11.8 or 12 kilowatts in your calculations as a substitute value for the nameplate rating of the electric ranges. This approach provides a reasonable estimate for the electrical load contributed by the ranges. The decision to use 12 kilowatts is justifiable because it is within the typical range of electric range nameplate ratings and provides a buffer for future increases in usage. This is particularly important when dealing with existing older buildings where the potential for future upgrades or changes in tenant behavior exists. In one of the apartment buildings, you are allowing for an electric range in each of 9 apartments, even though only about half of the apartments currently have electric ranges. Planning for electric ranges in all apartments is a prudent approach. It accounts for the possibility that tenants may install electric ranges in the future, ensuring that the electrical service is adequate to handle the increased load. By planning for electric ranges in all apartments, you are proactively addressing potential future needs and avoiding the need for costly upgrades later on. This approach demonstrates a commitment to providing a reliable and robust electrical service to the tenants. As part of the pre-bid process, you need to develop a tentative plan to present to the building department for approval. The plan should include the assumptions and methodology used in your calculations. In addition to using a substitute value for the nameplate rating of the electric ranges, there are several other considerations to keep in mind when performing the calculations for multifamily dwellings. Firstly, it is essential to consider a safety margin when determining the appropriate substitute value for the electric ranges. Using a higher value, such as 12 kilowatts, provides a safety margin that accounts for potential increases in future range usage. This helps ensure that the electrical service is adequate to handle the increased load even if tenants install higher power ranges or use their ranges more frequently. Secondly, it is important to consider the existing electrical load in the apartments. If most apartments do not have electric ranges, using a higher substitute value may overestimate the future demand. In this case, you may want to consider using a low value or apply a demand factor to account for the fact that not all apartments will have electric ranges at the same time. Thirdly, it is important to anticipate the possibility of tenant turnover and the likelihood of future occupants installing electric ranges. As tenants move in and out, the mix of electric and gas ranges in the apartments may change. It is prudent to plan for the possibility that more apartments will have electric ranges in the future. This ensures that the electrical service is adequate to handle the increased load without requiring costly upgrades. When presenting your plan to the building department, it is essential to be prepared to explain your methodology and the assumptions used in selecting the substitute value. You should explain that the value of 12 kilowatts is based on typical industry practice and provides a safety margin while considering the existing load and potential tenant turnover. This will help the building department understand the rationale behind your calculations and increase the likelihood of approval. You can explain that the substitute value of 12 kilowatts per electric range is a reasonable estimate that balances the need for safety with the consideration of existing load and potential tenant turnover. This approach provides a buffer for future increases in usage. The building department will likely appreciate your thoroughness and attention to detail. You should also be prepared to provide documentation to support your calculations and assumptions. This may include data on the typical power consumption of electric ranges, information on the existing electrical load in the apartments, and projections of future tenant turnover. The more information you can provide, the more confident the building department will be in your plan. By addressing these considerations and presenting a well-reasoned plan to the building department, you can increase the likelihood of obtaining approval for your service upgrade project. This will help ensure that the electrical service is adequate to meet the needs of the tenants and the building as a whole. For your pre-bid calculations, using a substitute value of 12 kilowatts per electric range is a reasonable estimate that balances the need for safety with the consideration of existing load and potential tenant turnover. This value is within the typical range of electric range nameplate ratings and provides a buffer for future increases in usage. Remember to clearly document your assumptions and methodology in your plan and be prepared to explain them to the building department. This will help ensure that your plan is approved and that the service upgrade project is successful. To summarize the key points, firstly, when calculating service loads for multifamily dwellings using the optional method, it is acceptable to use a substitute value for the nameplate rating of electric ranges if the actual nameplate ratings are not available. Secondly, a value of 12 kilowatts per electric range is a reasonable substitute value that provides a safety margin and considers the existing load and potential tenant turnover. Thirdly, when presenting your plan to the building department, be prepared to explain your methodology and the assumptions used in selecting the substitute value. This will help ensure that your plan is approved. Remember to consult the National Electrical Code and local regulations for specific requirements and guidelines. The National Electrical Code provides detailed guidance on electrical calculations and service load requirements. Adhering to the code will help ensure that your service upgrade project is safe and compliant. In addition to the general guidelines provided in the National Electrical Code, it is also important to consult local regulations and requirements. Local jurisdictions may have specific amendments or interpretations of the National Electrical Code that you need to be aware of. By following these steps, you can develop a comprehensive and well-supported plan for upgrading the electrical services of the apartment buildings. This will help ensure that the project is successful and that the electrical service is adequate to meet the needs of the tenants and the building as a whole. It is also recommended to consult with a qualified electrical engineer or contractor to review your calculations and plans. An experienced professional can provide valuable insights and help you identify any potential issues or areas for improvement. The expertise of an electrical engineer or contractor can help ensure that your service upgrade project is safe, compliant, and effective. Their involvement can also provide additional assurance to the building department that the project is being handled by qualified professionals. When you present your plan to the building department, make sure you highlight that you considered all the various factors involved in electrical service upgrades and use the most reasonable estimate. Your thoughtfulness in addressing all possibilities will make the decision easier for the building department. By following these recommendations, you can confidently proceed with the pre-bid process and develop a plan that meets the needs of the apartment buildings and the tenants. This will help ensure that the service upgrade project is successful and that the electrical service is reliable and safe. In conclusion, when dealing with the absence of electric range nameplate ratings for multifamily dwelling calculations, utilize a substitute value. A value of 12 kilowatts offers a practical balance between safety, existing load, and potential tenant changes. Always clearly communicate your methods and reasoning to the building department. Remember that consulting with experienced professionals enhances the reliability and compliance of your electrical service upgrade project. Also, be sure to check any other loads that may have changed, such as air conditioning, that the tenants may be installing. Planning ahead will help ensure that any future upgrades are avoided.